Jai Sharma is an entrepreneur who's used his own business skills to set up ethical online clothing store that's known to many as Thread Harvest. And I want to say much more about that. So welcome onto the show, Jai. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Tell us what Thread Harvest is.
Yeah, so Thread Harvest it's an online fashion retailer. So it's a website that stocks, at the moment, I think at last count, around 40 different labels from all over the world. Clothing and footwear and apparel and accessories made from Cambodia to Ethiopia. And I guess in that sense is fairly standard. It's a place to buy clothes. The twist, I guess, is that each of the labels and each of the products has its own story of social impact behind it. So a lot of the items are made by people from disadvantaged backgrounds, people with disabilities or kind of fleeing domestic violence situations, and a lot of the profits go back to fund social causes. And
you've seen many of these people that where you've got this work from.
Indeed, yeah. I think even before I started Thread Harvest, I had the privilege, I guess, of having spent time overseas walking alongside people doing it really tough. And so I think it got somewhat of an appreciation for the challenges they face. Yeah.
What sort of clothing are we talking about?
So the big one is that it's not kind of hemp fisherman's pants. So we're not talking kind of that type of ethical fashion. It's true fashion that is featured in Vogue and Elle and kind of the fashion mags.
I'm glad you've said that, because some people could easily think, oh, it's this stuff, we're all going to be walking around with shirts down here that don't look right. And
We really wanted it to be fashionable. Yeah. We realized very early on, we would chat to people and say, we're doing ethical fashion. This is really exciting, and we'd talk about it later. And you'd see, second we said ethical fashion, the eyes would just glaze over, particularly people that cared about fashion, because they would assume
so why
it was
did
daggy.
You start it?
A few different reasons. I think there's a broad market reason and there's a personal reason. I think the market reason for us is, before I did Thread Harvest, I was working in a superannuation fund as an ethical analyst, and I was often looking at the ethical performance of the large apparel companies, and tragically every day I would see another alert. So there would be another massive violation of workers' rights, or there would be a massive pollutant event where massive amounts of wastewater had gone into river systems. And so I realised pretty quickly that this was an area with huge potential, but that was failing to live up to its potential from an impact perspective. And I guess we wanted to champion the brands that were doing things a little bit differently and better.
So the question I've to ask you, the people that are making these clothes are being paid proper wages and being looked after ethically, as well as them being ethically priced in that. Is that true?
Yeah, it was so important to us, And for us, the labels that we partnered with, we put them through the ringer. So there were a lot of calls, and for us, it wasn't just about the salary. We really wanted a living wage and a fair trade wage, but it was also about the other support. So for people that had additional needs and challenges, we wanted to make sure they were being supported emotionally and spiritually and physically. We loved seeing the way that those labels really cared and loved for their staff.
Because of time, I just don't want to let you go. They're talking about microfinance, because this is a very important area, isn't it? Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, about microfinance? Yeah, so I guess the philosophy behind microfinance is if you allow people, if you empower people with a small loan and allow them to go out and often start small businesses or new initiatives, that can be really transformative for the individual, for their family, and for the community. And so I guess in the next kind of phase of my life, I think we've done a lot of work in supporting microfinance initiatives to really, I guess, empower people to lift themselves up out of poverty.
And ethical investing is a big area today, isn't it? And I hear Christians in churches and communities thinking that this is maybe a soft option, really.
Yeah.
How would you respond to that?
Yeah, it kind of breaks my heart a little bit when I hear that ethical investing is considered a soft option. I work with a firm at the moment that, for mine, is absolutely institutional in its rigour. We have senior executives from the top finance firms, from Goldman Sachs and KPMG, working on team. And I think what we've seen is actually the desire to generate impact actually pushes a deeper sense of financial rigor. There's a sense that there's so much on the line here that we really need to do this well.
So finally, what do you get out of it being a Christian?
Yeah, I get a deep sense of purpose. I get a deep joy, honestly, when I hear the stories and see the impact that we're able to contribute to. It's deeply, deeply encouraging. And it's not to kind of to get brownie points with God. It's not about that. I think it's about, for me, it's the joy of the freedom that we have to love people.
So before I finish, if someone's listening to our conversation and they wanted to start up a social enterprise, be it in their local community or on an international scale, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would strongly encourage them. It's a wild ride. I guess I've made a ton of mistakes myself, and kind of I guess the advantage of having made mistakes is there's plenty of advice you can share. And for mine, I think the big one is to first walk in the shoes of your beneficiaries. Really understand their stories, their needs, and then I think you'll be well positioned to start a business that seeks to serve them.
When we talked earlier, and it was really in relation to ethical investing, this question, I talked to you about the people that might be a bit hesitant and worried about it all.
Yeah.
You talked about talking in terms of the positive differences that you can make in terms of helping people, rather than what we're avoiding, what we can do.
Yeah.
Explain that a bit more.
Yeah, I think there's two sides of the ethical investing coin. One is the negative exclusions of taking out tobacco, gambling, and that's really important. What I often find really gets people excited, myself personally, kind of passionate about, is actually the positive end, investing in the microfinance, renewable energy, social enterprise finance that really changes lives and creates the positive that we want to see in the world, I guess.
And you definitely get the buzz from that still.
I do. Yeah, absolutely. It's a constant joy and a constant learning process as well.